On the investigation into the suspicious death of Gene Hackman and his wife.
When the agents entered Gene Hackman's mansion, they were totally surprised because they were not expecting what they were watching. They had never thought they would have to face this at this great actor's mansion. The safe was still locked, the main door left unopened, yet what the FBI found in Gene Hackman's Santa Fe home was more horrifying than all of Hollywood's scandals put together. Each new detail cut into those who saw it, revealing the darkest truths that show business had tried to bury.
We'll be analyzing cell phone data, phone calls, text messages.
Underneath the glamorous surface lay vicious hunts for human prey, sinister feasts of blood and flesh. The FBI's discovery wasn't just physical proof. It tore away Tinseltown's glossy skin, exposing a rotting skeleton underneath. Gene Hackman didn't simply die because he knew too much. He died because he understood all too well.
Good morning, Michael. So this has been a mystery that's confounded investigators and really the entire world for a week now.
He left behind a painful legacy, uncovering an industry of illusions where every ounce of fame is paid for in human lives. The large front gate shut quietly on the red dirt path of Santa Fe, like a proud facade hiding whatever lurked behind. In this land of native art and warm adobe walls, the mansion that Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa had shared for more than 3 decades stood as a private hideaway, guarding them from flashbulbs and empty flattery. But on a gray morning in early 2024, those same walls stopped offering comfort, turning instead into a veil over a deadly secret. The couple's demise was discovered by chance. The usual morning light wasn't shining from the glass sunroom where Hackman often read and sipped tea. A local mail carrier, who knew the pair's habits well, noticed a mailbox crammed with unread envelopes. When Santa Fe police battered down the door, nobody was prepared for what lay inside. Gene Hackman was on the living room floor, curled up, features twisted almost beyond recognition.
There have been a lot of theories about what happened inside that house.
Close by, Betsy Arakawa rested against the couch, her arm hanging down as if she'd tried to reach for something. There were no signs of a fight, no obvious wounds, but the terrible smell in that still air pushed the first forensic officers to step back.
3 separate areas, Gene Hackman, his wife, the dog.
The 2 of them had been dead for a while. Silent death, that's the phrase recorded in the police report. Yet that hush was short-lived. Whispers soon spread through peaceful Santa Fe, feeding various theories. Some said Gene Hackman was assassinated in a kind of Hollywood cleanup after old secrets came to light.
Tonight we're getting a clearer picture of the timeline related to the death of Oscar winner Gene Hackman.
Others claim Betsy was poisoned and that Hackman, in a frenzy after witnessing her collapse, took his own life. No one knew fact from fiction, but a deep sense of unease settled over everyone. Even more puzzling was the FBI's swift entrance. Typically, when a reclusive star dies in his own home, federal agents don't jump in. But this time, shortly after local experts finished their search, black FBI SUVs slipped through the gate without sirens or fuss. Their agents, dressed in dark suits and stony-faced, went straight inside.
You doing okay?
No, I'm not, actually.
It left everyone asking why the federal government was so interested in the death of a performer who had left Hollywood 2 decades earlier. Nobody gave official answers, but a confidential source hinted that whatever the FBI uncovered changed everything about the case. It wasn't just the remains of an elderly couple or a handful of trinkets. The agents located a hidden chamber behind an old wooden bookcase. Gene Hackman had once joked that, "If I have any big secrets, they'll go with me." Inside that secret space, said one stunned agent, were papers involving not just Hackman, but Clint Eastwood, Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, and top officials in Washington. Some were stamped "confidential eyes only," suggesting Hackman was more than just a big-name actor. He was a walking vault of knowledge that Hollywood feared would be exposed. Gene Hackman, once known for his commanding presence on screen, now took on a darker role, tangled in secret deals, deadly debts, and vendettas that had chased him for half a century. And with its federal authority, the FBI couldn't afford to let any pieces of this puzzle slip out. The majestic gates of Santa Fe sealed behind the black vehicles, leaving the desolate house in the desert. But that hush was simply the beginning of the storm about to engulf Hollywood. Gene Hackman was gone, Yet the secrets he guarded were not. A deserted stage among the sands. Under the pale beams of forensic flashlights, Gene Hackman's Santa Fe estate resembled a theater after the final curtain. A fine layer of dust clung to doorknobs. Tiny cracks lined picture frames, and an unbearable stillness filled the rooms. The forensic team entered in steady formation, gliding like shadows through hallways that had once seen both triumph and tragedy. But the darkness deepened when the master bedroom door creaked open. There were no dramatic touches like the scenes Hackman performed in on screen. No bullet holes, no scrawled lipstick messages, just a heavy quiet and a foul smell rising from the floors. Betsy Arakawa lay across the threshold to the bathroom, her head tilted, eyes half shut, as if drowsy. Drops of water on her silver robe glinted under the bright lights of the team. Nearby, a small heater still flickered, giving off intense heat. Pills were scattered around, some intact, some crushed to powder. There was no visible prescription bottle, and later analysts would confirm these pills weren't the standard kind sold in local pharmacies. A short distance away, Gene Hackman was found on the bed, lying on his side with one arm dangling over the edge, reaching for something unseen. His face, once known the world over, was frozen in a grimace that hinted at pain and shock. Based on how far the bodies had decayed, it seemed they'd died around the same time, or at most hours apart. The vital data, however, came from Hackman's pacemaker, a device he wore for chronic heart trouble. Every spike or irregularity was relayed to a medical database. Its last entry was at 2:43 a.m. on February 17th, after which there were no heart readings, no alarm, no trace, only the quiet of a heart that had stopped forever. That date, February 17th, was immediately marked as crucial for piecing together what really happened. But the early observations offered more than just the discovery of two aging bodies. The master bedroom, though tidy, held countless unsettling clues. On the bedside table was a 2025 planner, its first pages filled with normal to-do items. Betsy's yoga times, Hackman's calls with the landscaper. Then, as one flipped forward, the writing started to wobble, ink smearing as if his hands shook while writing. Several lines were blacked out, yet a phrase circled 3 times in pen read, "They're watching again," as though he was warning himself of something he couldn't be sure was real. 2 phones were also found. One was a new model, still charging, and the other a flip phone from long ago. Neither had a password. The call logs on both were practically empty for the last 3 weeks. Oddly enough, that older flip phone occasionally got text messages from a faceless number, each reading only, "Are you ready?" These pieces, the powdered pills, the strange planner entries, the mysterious texts, seemed like small fragments of a huge puzzle nobody could yet recognize. Investigators knew this went beyond 2 seniors passing quietly at home. The Santa Fe estate was once a peaceful hideout for a legendary actor and his devoted wife, but now it looked like a scene stuck halfway through a dark drama. Gone was the calm of retirement. In its place loomed new evidence of dread, leaving the authorities sure that the real story was just starting. Behind the bathroom door. No one would ever forget the moment the bathroom door was opened, revealing the fluorescent glow that lit up a scene both disorderly and spooky. Betsy Arakawa lay near the doorframe, her body bent at a strange angle, her head propped against the cool tiles, eyes half closed as if in a restless nap. Light blue pills covered the floor. Some had scattered under the cabinet, mixing with dust and stray hairs. Close by, the space heater let out an overwhelming heat, turning the bathroom into an odd sauna in the cold of February. Later, authorities found the prescription bottle inside the vanity drawer, but it was completely empty. The forensic drug inventory showed it had contained a potent painkiller, usually reserved for terminal cancer patients or major surgeries. But Betsy Arakawa had never faced any illnesses that matched such a need. She was known for a healthy routine, a strict diet, daily yoga, and walks on the grounds with Gene. Just the presence of this painkiller was strange enough, but the space heater's intense warmth complicated things further. It sped up the drying of Betsy's body, halting normal decomposition, almost mummifying her. Rather than contorted limbs or foam around the mouth typical of an overdose, she simply lay on her side, knees partially drawn up, almost as if she were reaching for the door. Her calm expression didn't match someone in the final throes of a deadly dose. Meanwhile, Hackman's pacemaker gave the clearest timestamp possible. It recorded its last data at 2:43 a.m. on February 17, then went silent. How had a 94-year-old with heart trouble ended up in sudden cardiac arrest in the middle of the night, without any big warning before that? And if Betsy had shared the same bed, why was she found by the bathroom, subjected to stifling heat, when the rest of the house seemed to have normal climate control? At first, guesses like overdose or murder-suicide popped up, but investigators quickly saw the scene didn't fit. Betsy's toxicology results revealed no overdoses of her usual medicine. Hackman showed no signs of being forced to take anything or of major injuries. If someone else was there, how had they slipped in and out unnoticed? And how did an upscale neighborhood with round-the-clock patrols fail to pick up anything amiss for more than a week until the gardeners smelled something off? The real shocker came when a hidden safe behind a built-in closet was found. It was an older style, with a metal dial and no sign that anyone had opened it recently. Inside lay old letters and journals in Hackman's neat handwriting, brimming with memories nobody expected him to keep. In that moment, the once unremarkable Santa Fe mansion changed from a secluded home into a hotbed of secrets, suggesting there was far more hidden within those walls than a simple, peaceful end. A phantom driver and alarming clues. By February 26, after local police and forensic experts had secured the scene, the FBI officially took control. It wasn't just because Gene Hackman was once a huge star, but due to a baffling sign. Apart from the two phones found near the bodies, one belonging to Hackman and one to Betsy, there was a third phone, an iPhone 15 Pro Max in titanium, discovered switched off under the couch cushions. It wasn't registered to either occupant, and there were no usable prints. The SIM card data indicated it had connected to phone towers around Albuquerque, nearly 100 miles south, but there was no address book, just 3 incoming calls from a blocked number. Analyzing both Hackman's and Betsy's phones led to an even greater shock. Hackman's phone appeared to have left the house twice after February 17th, the date his pacemaker cut out. Both times, the phone followed the same route, traveling down Highway 285 to a small gas station near Loretto. The first trip happened at 11 p.m. on February 18th, the second at 3 a.m. on February 20th. Gas station cameras only caught glimpses of headlights vanishing into the night, as though someone knew exactly how to avoid direct monitoring. Immediately, the FBI asked, if Hackman died on the 17th, who used his phone on the 18th and 20th? In this wealthy Santa Fe enclave, every vehicle entering or leaving is logged, but the area's gate camera showed a dark pickup truck, no front license plate, on those exact nights. The truck parked in shady spots beneath the trees, evading a clear shot of the driver. A search through state databases turned up nothing matching that truck. It was as if it didn't exist. Hackman's pacemaker data offered more clues. Starting around 7 p.m. on February 16th, his heart rate leaped up and stayed extremely high for 4 hours. This wasn't typical for a man in his 90s trying to sleep. It pointed to intense fear or a dire confrontation. Oddly, interior surveillance didn't catch any unusual visitors or conflicts. So what triggered those hours of heart-pounding stress right before the pacemaker shut down? It seemed likely that someone snuck into the house on the night of February 16th, possibly the owner of that unregistered phone or the driver of the black pickup, forcing Hackman's heart into overdrive. Later, they left quietly and came back on the 18th and 20th, driving Hackman's phone out to the gas station. Did they do that to erase digital evidence or search for something inside the home? The FBI saw a carefully orchestrated plan. Nothing about it was random. It looked like someone understood the mansion's layout and security blind spots, returning more than once for reasons unknown. Did they want items from that old safe? Or maybe something else even more vital? 9 days, 3 phones, a ghostly truck, a stranger who seemed to know how to vanish without a trace, and a retired star's phone leaving the house long after he was already gone. The deeper they dug, the more the FBI realized they were in the midst of a chilling puzzle, one the killer had deliberately arranged to hide something of enormous value. A carefully given silence. Crime scenes usually speak on their own, but in Gene Hackman's mansion, It felt like every sign was left to misdirect. Still, one object stood out: the pill bottle beside Betsy Arakawa's body. According to her medical records on February 15th, 2025, just 2 days before Hackman's pacemaker went quiet, Betsy had been prescribed a refill of alprazolam, a mild anti-anxiety medication she had used for years. Hackman kept a strict log of each dose, and the last entry was from the morning of February 16th, noting that Betsy slept well. But after counting the remaining pills, investigators concluded at least 6 were gone, not lining up with the record. There was no sign Betsy took any more than usual. If not Betsy, who else used them? And for what? The autopsy exposed something even scarier. Betsy's system contained a foreign compound, not found in her regular prescriptions. It was a lab-made sedative, illegal to buy in the U.S., similar to powerful anesthesia meant for knocking someone out quickly while erasing short-term memory. The timeline fit right between February 16th and 17th, when Hackman's pacemaker measured severe stress. What if someone forced Betsy to take this drug, leaving her dazed or unable to recall what was happening, while Hackman's heart gave out under the sudden shock? The scene might have been staged to look like an overdose, with pills all around and a water glass close by. Yet experts saw odd inconsistencies. Betsy's body wasn't in a typical overdose posture. There were no fresh prints of hers on the pill container, only older prints from Hackman's last documented check. Tests showed the unknown sedative, not her standard medication, did the lethal damage. On top of that, footprints on the bathroom floor suggested someone in size 43 hiking boots had lingered for a day or two after the couple died. The home's interior surveillance had been shut down for exactly those 48 hours, then switched on again without any new fingerprints on the controls. These facts led the FBI to a grim outlook. On February 16th, someone sneaked into the house and slipped Betsy an experimental sedative, leaving her helpless. Hackman confronted the intruder, and his heart, already weakened, raced so wildly that it finally stopped in the early hours of February 17th. The intruder then stayed, faking a double overdose scene, but departed in a hurry. Over the next few days, they returned to correct mistakes or retrieve something. It was a silent prescription, not to cure, but to kill. And what they wanted to ensure was that Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa could never speak again. Echoes of a tarnished empire. At first, the FBI believed that the dusty old safe in Gene Hackman's study would solve the mystery. Positioned behind an oak bookshelf, it had a simple combination dial, the sort Hackman might have relied on since his Hollywood glory days. Investigators expected to find blackmail, scandalous photos, or something explaining why Hackman and his wife had been targeted. Instead, the safe held an odd assortment of items. A handwritten apology from the 1980s by a director who passed away after facing a harassment scandal, a worn logbook detailing hush-hush film, industry meetings, and a USB drive marked nightmare files. Notably, the safe had not been touched after the couple's death. That forced a grim question. Did the killer already know about it and deem it unimportant, or were they after something else? Then came word of some disturbing letters mailed to Hackman over the previous 6 months. Typewritten notes warning him to keep quiet or be silenced. No fingerprints, no traceable postmarks. He had dismissed them, telling a friend that Hollywood ghosts like to scare old celebrities. But Betsy Arakawa's hidden activities emerged from seized electronics. She had spent 2024 digging up stories about dark Hollywood circles. Her scribbled notes mentioned known but shadowy figures. A big-name director accused of exploiting children. A media giant rumored to keep victims quiet with hush money and hits. An actress who vanished after threatening to reveal predator parties in Malibu. Betsy never told Hackman about her personal search, but it was all there on her laptop. Could something she uncovered have sealed their fate? The FBI eventually labeled the Hackman-Arakawa case as a non-conclusive criminal probe, but insiders knew they had only glimpsed a corner of the real story. An underworld where hush money, suspicious deaths, and locked files pointed to a network of powerful puppeteers. The typed threats to Hackman might never be traced to a single name, but the pattern was too familiar. Top-level forces removing liabilities. In a world driven by illusions and glitz, The Santa Fe mansion turned into a quiet shrine for all the souls Hollywood had devoured. Gene Hackman's personal diary, found among the evidence, ended with shaky lines. "They're closing in. I'm not sure what they think I know, but they're certain I do. If you find this, understand. Nothing is random in Hollywood." As for the USB codenamed Nightmare Files, it vanished into the FBI's highest security vault. One agent leaked that even seasoned investigators who had seen cult horrors were rattled by what they witnessed on it. And so, as night fell over the hills, the door to the Hackman estate remained ajar, the only watcher of a tale that had barely begun. Hollywood rarely lets a legend die quietly. Every star that goes dark leaves an echo behind, murmuring in the shadows of the film capital. This mansion wasn't merely a crime scene. It was a deep grave where dreams and people alike had been buried, an entrance straight into the ugliest corners of a place that sparkles even as it devours itself.